The rain hammered my garage roof like angry fists while I wrestled with the busted generator, my knuckles already red from the sharp metal edges. That's when I heard Bianca's voice cut through the storm from our bedroom window above. "Don't touch me until you've proven yourself." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The bedroom door slammed hard enough to rattle the house. I dropped my wrench and stared up at the dark window, rain dripping from my hair onto the concrete floor. Proven myself? What the hell was this? Some twisted reality show where I had to earn the right to touch my own wife? I'm Nathaniel Cross, 38 years old, and I've been busting my ass as a civil engineer for 15 years. I've built bridges that'll outlast both of us, designed water systems for entire neighborhoods, and somehow that wasn't proof enough for Bianca Cross, interior designer extraordinaire. The generator coughed to life, casting dancing shadows across my cluttered workspace. Tools hung on pegboards like surgical instruments, each one precisely placed because that's how engineers think. Everything has its place. Everything follows logical rules. Everything except my marriage, apparently. I wiped my hands on an oil-stained rag and replayed the last few weeks in my head. Bianca had been pulling away, working late at her design firm, coming home with that distant look in her green eyes. When I'd try to kiss her goodnight, she'd turn her cheek and mutter something about being tired. When I'd reach for her in bed, she'd stiffen like I was some stranger who'd crawled under her Egyptian cotton sheets. "Daddy?" Our 8-year-old daughter Emma appeared in the garage doorway, her blonde hair messy from sleep. "Mommy's crying again." I knelt down and pulled her into a hug that smelled like strawberry shampoo and innocence. "It's okay, sweetheart. Grown-ups sometimes have loud conversations." "She said you need to prove something. What do you need to prove?" Out of the mouths of babes. What indeed? That I loved her? That I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford this house in Riverside Heights with its perfect lawn and 3-car garage? That I'd given her everything she'd ever asked for, including the freedom to build her career while I handled the mortgage, the insurance, the endless practical details that kept our life running? "I don't know yet, Emma, but I'm going to find out." The next morning, Bianca was already gone when I came down for coffee. Emma sat at the kitchen island, eating cereal and swinging her legs. "Mommy left you a note," she said, pointing to a piece of cream-colored stationery by the coffee maker. The note was written in Bianca's perfect designer handwriting, taking some space to think. "Don't wait up tonight. B." Not "love Bianca" or even "your wife Bianca," just B. Like I was some client getting a polite brush off. I drove Emma to school in my dusty pickup truck, watching her wave goodbye in the rearview mirror. Then I headed to the construction site where we were breaking ground on a new shopping complex. Physical work had always cleared my head, and today I needed clarity more than ever. My foreman, Big Jim Rodriguez, took one look at my face and handed me a hard hat. "You look like hell, Cross. What's eating you?" "Marriage stuff," I said, grabbing a shovel. "Nothing a little manual labor won't fix." But as I dug into the red clay soil, my mind kept circling back to Bianca's words. Proven myself. What kind of test was she putting me through, and why didn't I get a study guide? That evening I came home to find Emma doing homework at the kitchen table while Bianca's car sat absent from the driveway. Again. "Where's Mom?" I asked. Emma held up a piece of paper covered in her careful third-grade handwriting. "She called and said to give you this." It was a list titled Daddy's Scorecard, with little boxes next to items like "Made Mommy Smile Today" and "Did something special without being asked" and "Proved he deserves attention." Every single box was empty. "Emma, did Mommy tell you to write this?" She nodded solemnly. "She said it would help you understand what you need to do better." I stared at that innocent piece of paper and felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. My wife was using our daughter as a messenger in whatever sick game she was playing. That crossed a line I didn't even know existed. You know what, sweetheart? Let's make our own list. How about things Daddy does that are already pretty great? Emma's face lit up as we spent the next hour filling a page with items like makes the best pancakes, and reads bedtime stories with funny voices, and fixes everything that breaks. By the time we were done, Emma was giggling, and I felt marginally human again. Bianca came home after midnight. I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, heard the bathroom door close, heard the shower run. When she finally slipped into bed, she stayed on her side, a continent of cold sheets between us. "We need to talk," I whispered into the darkness. "Not tonight, Nate. I'm exhausted. About what you said yesterday, about proving myself. I need to understand what that means." She sighed like I was the most tedious person on earth. "It means exactly what it sounds like. You've gotten comfortable, lazy. You take me for granted." "How do I take you for granted? I work my ass off for this family." "That's just it. You think providing is enough. You think paying bills makes you husband of the year." I propped myself up on one elbow, trying to see her face in the dim light from the street lamp outside. "Then tell me what would make you happy. Give me something concrete to work with. If I have to tell you, then you don't get it." And with that circular logic, she rolled over and pretended to sleep, leaving me staring at the ceiling and wondering when my wife had become a stranger. 29 days. That's how long Bianca's silent treatment lasted. 29 days of polite nods over coffee, of her using Emma as a go-between for household logistics, of sleeping next to someone who treated me like a roommate she barely tolerated. I started keeping my own scorecard, tracking every attempt at conversation that got shot down, every gesture that went unnoticed. Every night I went to bed feeling like a ghost in my own house. The engineer in me needed data, needed to quantify exactly how far south this marriage had gone. On day 30, I was cleaning out our home office when I found Bianca's old iPad wedged behind the desk. She'd upgraded to a newer model months ago, but being an engineer, I knew that deleted doesn't always mean gone. Data recovery was part of my skill set, something I'd learned during a project involving corrupted city planning files. I told myself I was just being thorough, just checking if there were any important family photos or documents we'd missed. But my hands shook as I connected the device to my laptop and ran the recovery software. What I found made me freeze. Text messages. Dozens of them. Between Bianca and someone named Carter Lane, stretching back 3 months. The early ones were flirtatious, but could have been innocent workplace banter. Carter was apparently a project manager at her design firm, someone she'd mentioned in passing as the new guy with good ideas. But the recent messages were anything but innocent. Carter: "Can't stop thinking about yesterday. You're incredible." Bianca: "Same here. I never expected to feel this way." Carter: "What about Nate?" Bianca: "What about him? He's so wrapped up in his blueprints and construction sites he barely notices I exist." Carter: "When can I see you again?" Bianca: "Tomorrow night. I'll tell him I'm working late." Again. My vision blurred as I scrolled through message after message, each one a knife twist in my chest. There were photos, too. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough. Bianca laughing at some restaurant I'd never been to. Bianca in a black dress I'd never seen her wear. Bianca looking happy in a way she hadn't looked at home in months. The most recent exchange was from 2 days ago. Bianca: "He's getting suspicious, asking too many questions." Carter: "Maybe it's time to tell him." Bianca: "Not yet. Let him prove himself first. If he can't figure out what's wrong and fix it, then he doesn't deserve to know the truth." Carter: "You're cruel. I like that about you." Bianca: "Can't wait for you to prove yourself at my place tonight when he's at his work dinner." I remembered that work dinner, a boring municipal planning meeting that ran until almost 11. I'd come home to find Bianca already in bed, claiming she'd had a headache all evening. She'd even managed to look pale and tired, the performance worthy of an Oscar. I sat in that office for 2 hours, reading every message, studying every photo, building a timeline of betrayal that stretched back to right around the time she'd started her Prove Yourself campaign. The irony was breathtaking. She was cheating on me while demanding that I prove I was worthy of her attention. My phone buzzed with a text from Bianca. "Working late again tonight, don't wait up." Working late. Right. I looked up Carter Lane on social media and found him easily. 35 years old, divorced, one of those guys who posted gym selfies and inspirational quotes about living your best life. He had the kind of artificially perfect smile that belonged in a toothpaste commercial and the empty eyes of a man who'd never had an original thought in his life. His address was listed on a professional networking site. Apparently, he lived in the Meridian Apartments, a trendy complex downtown that catered to young professionals who thought exposed brick and industrial lighting made up for paper-thin walls and overpriced rent. I found myself driving there without making a conscious decision to leave the house. Emma was at her friend's house for a sleepover, so I had the whole evening to myself. The whole evening to sit in my truck across from Carter's building and watch my wife's car pull into the visitor parking at 7:30. She'd dressed up for him. Even from a distance, I could see she was wearing the red coat I'd bought her for Christmas, the one she claimed was too fancy for everyday wear. She walked into that building like she owned it, like she belonged there more than she belonged in our house. I sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours of watching other people come and go, of imagining what was happening in apartment 4B, of feeling my marriage dissolve in real time. When Bianca finally emerged at 10:45, her hair was mussed and her lipstick was gone. She looked satisfied in a way that made me want to punch something. But I didn't punch anything. Instead, I got out of my truck and walked over to Carter's BMW, a sleek black thing that probably cost more than most people made in a year. I knelt down and carefully unscrewed the valve caps from all 4 tires, letting the air out slowly and quietly. It was petty and juvenile, but it felt like the only power I had left. I left a note under his windshield wiper. "Did this prove myself, Bianca? Nate." Then I drove home and pretended to be asleep when she slipped into bed an hour later, reeking of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. The next morning brought consequences. I was barely through my first cup of coffee when my phone exploded with angry texts from Bianca. "What the hell is wrong with you? Carter's tires were slashed. He knows it was you. This is exactly the kind of immature bullshit that proves you're not ready to be a real husband." I texted back. "I didn't slash anything. Just let some air out, like you've been doing to our marriage for months." My phone rang immediately. Bianca's voice was shrill with rage. "You followed me? You actually followed me like some creepy stalker?" I followed my wife to her boyfriend's apartment. Seemed like the reasonable thing to do under the circumstances. "Carter is not my boyfriend. He's a colleague." "Right. Is that what we're calling it now? Colleagues who exchange photos and plan secret meetings and talk about proving themselves?" The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. Finally, she spoke in a voice I'd never heard before, cold and calculating. "You went through my private messages. Your deleted messages, on a device you threw away. Legally speaking, it was abandoned property. You bastard." "No, Bianca. I'm the husband you've been lying to for 3 months, while you screwed around with some divorced loser who drives a BMW he can't afford. Don't you dare judge Carter. He treats me like a woman, not like a piece of furniture. And how exactly does he do that? By helping you humiliate me? By turning my daughter into your messenger service? By convincing you to withhold affection until I jump through hoops I didn't even know existed?" Another long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "I want you out of the house when I get home." "It's my house too. My name's on the deed." "Then I'll stay somewhere else. We need space to figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out, Bianca. You made your choice 3 months ago. Now we both have to live with the consequences." She hung up without another word. I called in sick to work and spent the day doing something I should have done weeks ago. I called a lawyer. Janet Morrison had handled the legal work when we bought the house, and she was known for being thorough and discreet. I need to understand my options, I told her over the phone. My wife is having an affair, and I have documentation. Bring everything you have. Text messages, photos, financial records, and Nate, don't do anything stupid while your emotions are running hot. Document everything, but don't give her ammunition to use against you. Too late for that advice, but I appreciated the sentiment. That evening, Bianca came home with reinforcements. Carter Lane stood in my driveway like he owned the place, his BMW sporting 4 brand new tires that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He was everything I'd expected from his photos, tall, artificially tanned, with the kind of perfect hair that required professional maintenance. "We need to talk," Bianca announced, marching into the house with Carter trailing behind her like a loyal dog. "All 3 of us?" I asked. "How cozy." Carter stepped forward, puffing out his chest like a rooster in a henhouse. "Look, Nathaniel, it's Nate, and you don't get to look anything in my house." "This is exactly what I'm talking about," Bianca said, throwing her purse onto the kitchen counter. "This aggressive, territorial behavior, it's toxic." "Toxic?" I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. "I'm toxic? I'm not the one who's been lying and cheating and manipulating our daughter into keeping score of my failures." Carter cleared his throat. "Maybe I should wait outside." "Maybe you should go home," I suggested. "This is between me and my wife." "Actually," Bianca said, "Carter is part of this conversation. He's been helping me understand what a real partnership looks like." "A real partnership," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling adultery now?" "It's not adultery if the marriage is already over," Carter said, and I had to give him credit for balls, even if his brain was clearly defective. "The marriage is over when we sign papers, or when one of us passes," I said. "Until then, it's adultery." Bianca rolled her eyes. "This is why we can't work things out. You're so black and white, so rigid. Everything has to fit into your neat little categories." "Some things are black and white, Bianca. Like wedding vows, like fidelity, like not using our daughter as a weapon in your twisted mind games." "I never used Emma as a weapon." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I'd taken of Emma's scorecard. "Really? Then what do you call this?" For the first time since she'd walked in, Bianca looked genuinely uncomfortable. Carter leaned over to read the screen, and his face went pale. "Jesus, Bianca, you made the kid write this?" "I was trying to help Nate understand what he needed to work on," she said defensively. "By humiliating me through our 8-year-old daughter?" I shook my head. "That's not therapy, Bianca. That's psychological warfare." "Everything is so dramatic with you," she snapped. "It was just a simple exercise in communication." "Communication would have been sitting down with me like an adult and telling me what was wrong. This," I waved the phone, "this is manipulation. And the fact that you don't see the difference tells me everything I need to know about where we stand." Carter stepped closer to Bianca, putting a protective arm around her shoulders. The gesture was so proprietary, so presumptuous, that I felt something snap inside my chest. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "We're not done talking," Bianca replied. "Yes, we are. You've made your position clear. You want to play house with Carter while keeping me around as backup in case things don't work out. Well, congratulations, you just lost your backup." "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled, and I could tell from their faces that it wasn't a pleasant expression. "It means the test is over, Bianca, and you both failed." The next few weeks were a masterclass in how quickly a life can fall apart. Bianca moved in with Carter, claiming she needed space to think, but her social media posts told a different story. Pictures of them at expensive restaurants, at art gallery openings, at weekend getaways to wine country. She was flaunting the relationship now, no longer bothering to hide behind the fiction of colleagues and working late. What hurt worse than the betrayal was how quickly our mutual friends chose sides, and they all chose hers. It started with David and Jennifer Walsh, a couple we'd been close to for years. David worked in finance, Jennifer was a teacher, and we'd spent countless evenings at each other's houses, grilling burgers and letting the kids play in the backyard. I thought they were friends. I thought they cared about the truth. I was wrong. "I think you should know," Jennifer told me over coffee at our usual spot downtown. "People are talking." "About what?" "About what you did to Carter's car. About how you've been stalking Bianca. About the messages you've been sending her." I set down my coffee cup carefully. "What messages?" "The threatening ones. The ones where you called her names and said you'd make her pay." "Jennifer, I never sent any threatening messages. I barely communicate with her at all except about Emma's schedule." She looked at me with pity, the way you'd look at a pathological liar who couldn't help himself. "Nate, she showed us screenshots. We've all seen them." "Then you've seen fake screenshots. I'm an engineer, not an idiot. Everything I send is documented in my phone records." But I could see she didn't believe me. The seed of doubt had been planted, and Bianca had watered it well. The next blow came from Mike Patterson, my college roommate and best man at my wedding. We'd been meeting for beers every Friday for 15 years, a tradition that survived job changes, moves, even the birth of our respective children. "I can't do this anymore, man," he said, not even bothering to sit down when I arrived at our usual bar. "Sarah says I can't be friends with you while this is going on." "While what is going on?" "The harassment, the stalking, the way you're trying to destroy Bianca's reputation." I stared at him, this man who'd known me since I was 18 years old, who'd seen me through my father's passing and my mother's cancer and every major milestone of my adult life. "You really think I'm capable of that?" I don't know what to think anymore. The Nate I knew wouldn't have slashed someone's tires or sent threatening messages, but here we are. I let air out of tires, I never sent threatening messages, and I'm not trying to destroy anyone's reputation. I'm trying to survive the destruction of my marriage. "Look, maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist or something. Sarah knows a guy who specializes in anger management." "I don't have an anger management problem, Mike. I have a wife who's rewriting history to make herself feel better about cheating." He shook his head and headed for the door. "Call me when you're ready to take responsibility for your actions." And just like that, 15 years of friendship evaporated. The pattern repeated itself over the following weeks. Couples we'd socialized with, neighbors we'd barbecued with, even people from Emma's school started treating me like I was radioactive. Bianca had gotten to them first, spinning a narrative where she was the victim of an increasingly unstable husband who couldn't accept that their marriage was over. The story she told was compelling in its simplicity. I was a controlling, emotionally abusive husband who'd driven her away with my rigid expectations and explosive temper. When she'd finally found the courage to leave, I'd responded with stalking and harassment and threats. She was just trying to protect herself and Emma from my escalating behavior. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, and it worked perfectly because it contained just enough truth to be believable. I had followed her to Carter's apartment. I had vandalized his car. I was angry and hurt and not handling the situation with perfect grace. Those facts provided the foundation for a much larger lie. The breaking point came 3 weeks after our confrontation. I was at Emma's soccer game, sitting alone in the bleachers while other parents whispered and pointed when Tom Bradley approached me. Tom was a lawyer, someone I'd considered a friend, whose daughter played on Emma's team. "Nate, I need to talk to you. If this is about Bianca's version of events, save your breath. I know what she's been telling everyone. It's not about that. It's about what you said to my wife." I turned to look at him fully. "I haven't talked to Rebecca in weeks. Last Tuesday, at the grocery store, you cornered her by the produce section and told her that Bianca was going to get what she deserved." "Tom, I wasn't even at the grocery store last Tuesday. I was in Springfield all day for a project meeting. I have receipts, GPS data from my truck, witnesses, but he was already shaking his head. Rebecca knows what she heard, Nate. And frankly, your behavior lately has everyone concerned. What behavior? Being angry that my wife is cheating on me? Being hurt that our friends believe lies without asking for my side of the story? The messages, Nate, the late-night phone calls, the drive-bys past their apartment. I haven't sent messages or made phone calls or driven by anyone's apartment since that first night. Whatever evidence you think you have, it's manufactured. So Rebecca is lying, Jennifer is lying, Sarah is lying, everyone is lying except you? Everyone is being lied to. There's a difference. But I could see it was hopeless. The narrative was set, the roles were cast, and I was playing the villain whether I liked it or not. That night, I called Janet Morrison and told her I needed to accelerate the divorce proceedings. "What's changed?" she asked. "Everything. Bianca's not content to just leave. She's trying to destroy my reputation, turn our friends against me, maybe even set me up for harassment charges. I need to protect myself." "Do you have evidence of these false allegations?" "I have phone records showing I didn't make calls she claims I made. GPS data proving I wasn't places she says I was. But proving a negative is almost impossible." "Then we need to go on offense, document everything, gather evidence of her actual misconduct, and file first. The person who controls the narrative usually wins." "What about Emma?" "Joint custody is standard unless there are safety concerns. Has Bianca suggested you're a danger to Emma?" "Not yet. But if this pattern continues, I'm sure that's coming next." "Then we move fast. I'll have papers drawn up by tomorrow." As I hung up, I realized that the man I'd been for the past 15 years was gone. The trusting husband, the loyal friend, the guy who believed that truth and decency would eventually win out. That person was gone. In his place was someone harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Bianca wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that engineers don't just build things. Sometimes we tear them down too. I spent the next month becoming someone I didn't recognize. Gone was the straightforward engineer who believed in honest work and fair play. In his place was a calculating strategist who studied his opponent's weaknesses like blueprints and planned demolitions with surgical precision. The first phase was financial. Bianca had gotten comfortable with our joint accounts, our shared credit cards, our mutual investments. She'd been using our money to fund her new lifestyle with Carter, charging expensive dinners and weekend trips to cards that I ultimately paid for. That stopped immediately. I liquidated our joint savings and opened new accounts in my name only. I canceled shared credit cards and removed her access to our investment portfolio. Everything I did was legal. The money was half mine, and I was simply claiming my portion before the divorce proceedings began. The house was trickier, but Janet Morrison had done her homework. Since I'd owned the property before our marriage and had never added Bianca's name to the deed, it remained my separate property under state law. I could legally ask her to remove her belongings, which I did via certified letter. "You can't just kick me out," Bianca screamed over the phone when she received the notice. "I've lived there for 8 years. "As my guest," I replied calmly. "Now you're living with Carter. Your belongings will be packed and ready for pickup this weekend." "This is financial abuse. This is financial reality. You want to leave the marriage? Fine, but you don't get to take half my assets while you're sleeping with another man. My lawyer says, your lawyer can call my lawyer, Janet Morrison. I'm sure they'll have lots to discuss." The second phase was social, and it required more finesse. I couldn't directly counter Bianca's lies. That would just make me look defensive and potentially unhinged. Instead, I had to let the truth reveal itself naturally. I started with Mike Patterson's wife, Sarah. She was the queen bee of our social circle, the one who organized parties and managed the group chat and decided who was in and who was out. She was also a psychology professor who prided herself on being able to read people. I ran into her, accidentally, at the coffee shop near the university where she taught. I looked tired, which wasn't hard since I was barely sleeping. I looked defeated, which also came naturally. Most importantly, I looked like a man who was trying to hold himself together and failing. "Nate," she said, her voice careful and distant. "How are you holding up?" "I've been better," I admitted, ordering a black coffee with shaking hands. "It's hard when everyone you thought was a friend thinks you're some kind of monster. Maybe if you got some help." "I am getting help. Therapy twice a week, anger management classes. I even got a prescription for anxiety medication." All of which was true. I'd started therapy the week after Bianca left, partly for my own sanity, and partly to establish a paper trail showing I was taking responsibility for my mental health. Sarah's expression softened slightly. "That's good, Nate. That's really good. I just wish I could make people understand that I never sent those messages or made those calls. I know how it looks. I know why everyone believes her, but I swear on Emma's life that I never threatened anyone." "Then who—" She stopped herself, but I could see the question forming in her mind. "I don't know," I said, letting exhaustion creep into my voice. "Maybe someone who wants to make sure I look as bad as possible. Maybe someone who benefits from everyone thinking I'm dangerous." I left it at that, letting her psychology training fill in the blanks. Sarah was smart enough to recognize gaslighting when she saw it, and manipulative enough to appreciate a well-executed campaign of character assassination. The seed of doubt was planted. The third phase required patience and technical skills. I needed evidence of what Bianca and Carter were really up to, beyond just the affair. I needed to understand their long-term plan, their financial situation, their vulnerabilities. Carter's social media was a goldmine of information. He posted constantly. Gym selfies, expensive meals, weekend trips, professional achievements. He was the kind of person who couldn't enjoy an experience without broadcasting it to the world. More importantly, he was careless about privacy settings and location data. I learned that he was deeply in debt despite his high salary. The BMW was leased, the expensive apartment was stretching his budget, and he'd been using credit cards to fund the lavish lifestyle he was showing off online. He was living paycheck to paycheck while pretending to be wealthy, and Bianca's presence in his life was making it worse. I also learned about his ex-wife, a woman named Patricia who'd divorced him 2 years earlier, citing financial irresponsibility and emotional manipulation. She'd gotten the house, the savings, and custody of their son. Carter had been left with debt and a bruised ego. More interesting was what I discovered about his work history. Carter had been fired from his previous job at a competing design firm for inappropriate workplace relationships. Apparently, he had a pattern of seducing married colleagues. Bianca wasn't his first affair. She was just his latest conquest. Armed with this information, I made an appointment with Patricia Lane. She agreed to meet me for coffee, curious about why her ex-husband's girlfriend's husband wanted to talk. "Let me guess," she said before I'd even sat down. "Carter's got his hooks in your wife, and you want to know how to get her back." "Actually, I want to know how to protect myself and my daughter from whatever game he's playing." Patricia laughed bitterly. "Smart man. Most of his marks' husbands just want to fight him or win their wives back. You're the first one who's figured out that this is bigger than just an affair." "What do you mean?" "Carter doesn't just seduce married women for closeness. He does it for money, for advancement, for whatever he can get out of the situation. With me, it was my trust fund. With his boss's wife at the last firm, it was inside information about upcoming projects. What does your wife have that he wants?" I thought about it. Connections. Her design firm works with high-end clients, developers, city planners. She has access to information about upcoming projects, zoning changes, property developments. There you go. I guarantee you he's not just sleeping with her. He's using her to get ahead in his career, maybe even to set up his own competing business. And when he's gotten everything he can from her, he'll dump her just like he dumped me. Can you prove any of this? I can prove what he did to me. Financial records, emails, testimony from people who witnessed his behavior. Whether that helps you depends on how smart you are about using it. I left that meeting with a folder full of documents and a much clearer picture of what I was dealing with. Carter wasn't just some loser who'd stolen my wife. He was a predator who'd targeted her specifically for what she could do for his career. And Bianca, for all her intelligence and professional success, was just another mark. The fourth phase was the most dangerous: direct confrontation. I needed to force them into making mistakes, to reveal their true nature in front of witnesses who couldn't dismiss or rationalize what they saw. The opportunity came at Emma's school fundraising gala, an annual event where parents gathered to bid on silent auctions and pretend they enjoyed each other's company. Bianca would be there. She'd helped organize the event and wouldn't miss a chance to show off her new relationship. I arrived alone, wearing my best suit and carrying myself with quiet confidence. I'd lost 15 pounds since Bianca left, partly from stress and partly from the workout routine I'd adopted to channel my anger. I looked good, and I could see people noticing. Bianca was holding court near the silent auction tables, Carter at her side like an expensive accessory. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen, probably bought with money from our joint account before I'd closed it. She looked beautiful and happy and completely at ease, the picture of a woman who'd escaped an unhappy marriage and found true love. I waited until they were surrounded by our former friends, the people who'd chosen her side in our divorce. Then I approached with a smile. "Bianca, Carter, you both look wonderful tonight." The group went quiet, sensing drama. Bianca's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Nate, I'm surprised to see you here. Emma's my daughter too. I wouldn't miss supporting her school." I turned to Carter with apparent warmth. "And I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "For helping me see what my marriage really was. It takes a special kind of person to show someone the truth about their life, even when that truth is painful." Carter looked confused, unsure whether I was being sincere or sarcastic. You're welcome? I mean it. Before you came along, I thought Bianca was the woman I married. Honest, loyal, someone who valued family and commitment. You helped me see that person never really existed." "Nate," Bianca said, her voice carrying a warning. "No, it's okay. I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful. You both did me a favor by showing me what you're really like before I wasted any more years trying to save something that was already over." I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of Patricia Lane's divorce decree. "Did you know Carter was married before, Bianca? Did you know why his ex-wife divorced him?" Carter's face went pale. "You don't know what you're talking about. Financial irresponsibility and emotional manipulation. Those were the exact words, plus something about inappropriate workplace relationships." I looked around at our audience, all of them hanging on every word. "Sound familiar?" "This is harassment," Bianca hissed. "This is public information, just like the fact that Carter was fired from his last job for seducing his boss's wife. Just like the fact that he's been using you for inside information about your firm's upcoming projects." "That's not true. Ask him about the Riverside Development Project. Ask him how he knew to invest in property adjacent to the site 3 weeks before your firm announced the contract." Carter grabbed Bianca's arm. "We don't have to listen to this." "No, you don't," I agreed. "But everyone else might want to hear about the pattern. About how Carter targets married women in the design industry, seduces them, uses them for professional gain, then discards them when he's gotten what he needs." "You're insane," Bianca said, but I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. "Am I? Then explain the messages." I pulled up screenshots on my phone, not the fake threatening messages she'd claimed I sent, but real messages between Carter and Patricia from 2 years ago. Messages where he'd outlined his strategy for managing his wife's emotions while he extracted maximum benefit from their relationship. "These aren't from me, Bianca. These are from Carter to his ex-wife, back when he was running the same game on her that he's running on you now." The crowd was riveted now, sensing that they were witnessing something bigger than a simple divorce drama. Carter tried to leave, but I stepped into his path. Going somewhere? I thought you'd want to stick around for the finale. Get out of my way. Or what? You'll call the police and tell them I'm harassing you? Good luck with that. I haven't threatened anyone, haven't touched anyone, haven't done anything except share public information at a public event. I turned back to Bianca, who was staring at Carter like she was seeing him for the first time. The messages you've been getting, the threatening ones you told everyone I sent, check the metadata, check the routing information. I guarantee they came from someone who wanted to make me look dangerous while positioning himself as your protector. That's impossible, she whispered. Is it? Who benefits from everyone thinking I'm unstable? Who gains credibility as the hero saving you from your crazy ex-husband? Who has the technical skills to spoof phone numbers and create fake message threads? Carter's face was red now, sweat beading on his forehead. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. I hired a forensic IT specialist to trace those messages. Turns out they originated from your laptop, using software designed to mask the sender's identity. You've been catfishing my wife with my own phone number. The silence was deafening. Everyone in the group was staring at Carter, watching him realize that his carefully constructed house of lies was collapsing. Bianca, he said, reaching for her hand. Don't listen to him. He's desperate. He'll say anything to get you back. But Bianca pulled her hand away, her face pale with shock and growing anger. Is it true? Did you send those messages? I was protecting you. Did you send them? You needed to see what kind of man he really was. Did you send them? Carter's shoulders sagged in defeat. Yes, but only because I love you. Only because I wanted to show you. Bianca slapped him, hard. The sound echoed through the suddenly quiet room like a gunshot. You manipulative bastard, she breathed. You made me think my husband was threatening me. You made me afraid in my own home. You turned my friends against him, made everyone think he was dangerous. I did it for us. You did it for yourself, just like you've done everything for yourself. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Nate, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd loved for 8 years. This stranger who'd destroyed our life together. I know you didn't know about the messages, Bianca, but you knew about the affair. You knew about the lies. You knew about using Emma to hurt me. Those were your choices. Can we talk, please? Can we try to work this out? I shook my head. There's nothing to work out. You made your decision 3 months ago when you decided to betray everything we built together. The messages were just Carter's insurance policy to make sure you couldn't change your mind. I looked around at our former friends, all of them staring at the wreckage of what they'd thought they understood. I hope you all learned something tonight about the importance of hearing both sides of a story before you choose sides. Then I walked away, leaving Bianca sobbing and Carter standing alone in the ruins of his latest scheme. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I got the house, joint custody of Emma, and a formal apology from every friend who'd believed Bianca's lies. Carter was fired from the design firm when his history of workplace manipulation came to light, and he left town shortly after. Bianca moved back in with her parents, her career damaged by association with Carter's schemes. Emma adjusted better than I'd expected. Children are resilient, and she seemed relieved that the tension and uncertainty were finally over. We established new routines, new traditions, new ways of being a family even if it looked different than before. I never remarried. Trust, once broken so completely, is almost impossible to rebuild. But I found peace in the work I loved, in raising my daughter, in the quiet satisfaction of a life lived honestly. Sometimes, late at night, I think about what might have happened if I'd been a different kind of man. If I'd been the type to fight Carter physically, or to beg Bianca to come back, or to simply accept the narrative she'd created and fade quietly into the background. But I'm an engineer. I solve problems methodically. I build things to last. And when something is beyond repair, I demolish it completely so something better can be built in its place. Bianca wanted me to prove myself. In the end, I proved that I was exactly the man she'd thrown away. Loyal, intelligent, and far more dangerous than she'd ever imagined.